It was magnificent. I forced my son to come with me, and he said, he's 35 years old. You can't force him to do much. He's single, by the way, girls. Very
Audacious Believer / eHarmony. Hey, beautiful people of Success Mentor, Dante J. Worth, and I'm back with another video right here on Audacious Believer TV. Now, if this is your first time tuning in, I need you to make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure that you like this video. And make sure that you are commenting down below. Me and my team absolutely love to read your comments. Now, tonight, we're being joined by the beautiful, the fabulous, the one, the only. Tell them who you are, man.
I am Elaine Spaull, and I am sitting next to the most amazing guy. Together, we are going to make you crazy.
Yes. I love it. So tonight I invited her here to talk about prevention through youth engagement. Now, before we talk about that, I want to ask you the same question we ask every single guest.
Yeah.
What is your story?
My story starts a very long time ago. I'm not going to go there. I can start my story actually when I was a young teacher in New York City. And I realized that there were all sorts of beautiful assets in young people.
Yes.
And the world was more engaged with finding what was wrong with them that was right. And that's the world. The world is to look at a person and say, let me describe what's not right about this young person.
Yeah.
If they are suffering from homelessness, from some sort of an addiction, from some kind of other trauma, let's identify that. Instead of saying, this kid is amazing. You know what? Because they're resilient and they're determined and they're encouraged to go on. And so that was the path I started. Now, I went to RIT. I came to Rochester with my husband many years ago. We're not going there. And I was the dean of students at RIT.
Nice.
And had a lot of opportunity there. And I think what happened for me, I was a professor teaching English literature. First at Mass, and then in those days I had a master's from Georgetown.
Wow.
Yeah, so that
was
education. I was young.
Smart.
And we decided that I would teach. So I was teaching both at Mass and at RIT, and I realized that I was much more interested in what was going on for the students outside the classroom.
Yeah.
So I pursued a PhD in higher education.
Wow.
And I said, this is going to be my goal. My goal is to work with these young people outside of class. So that happened for a while. Then I woke up one day, I was 42, and I poked my husband, who was a doll, is still a doll, long-suffering man, St. Malcolm, and I said, I'm going to go to law school. And he said, please, dear God, I'm having a nightmare. My wife's insane. She has she has 2 masters.
Wow.
She has a PhD.
And you want to
we have children. We have babies. We have children. We're busy, and she's making a really nice salary, and she's going to law school.
Wow. So you had a shift in your trajectory.
So I did. So I went to law school. I left my job at RIT, went to law school, had a Fulbright fellowship in England that summer, which was great. We all went over. And then I practiced law at Nixon Peabody as a corporate tax lawyer.
Wow.
Now, I knew the minute that I put a Far Side cartoon on the men's room door that had an old cowboy with toilet paper off his spur.
Oh my God.
And they took it down and said, who did that? I knew that I was not destined to stay there.
It was over, girl.
I'm out. I'm going to get out before they kick me out.
Right.
And they were actually very sweet, and they loved my energy. But I had a call from Walter Cooper, who's a well-known, amazing man in Rochester, he and his wife, and said, anybody can practice law, which is sort of true, but not completely. Not completely, but sort of true. You need to go to the Center for Youth, a little teeny agency, and it's doing amazing work, but it's gonna fold. It's too small. It's gonna small.
Yeah.
It was less than $2 million, about 45 people. We have to do something. And I came here and I said to them, listen, I will give you 3 years. Cut my salary in half. I was making not even close to what I will come here for 3 years. I will get you guys back on track. I will get you some play in this community, and I'm out. I'm either going to become a college president, go back to practice law.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not going to stay here.
Right.
That was 18 years ago.
Wow. And she's still here doing the work.
So still doing the work.
For you, when did you realize that? When did that moment happen where youth became the priority for you? When did that happen for you?
I think because I had individual experiences with young people who told me their stories and who looked at me and said, and I'll give you a couple examples. I had a young man I was working with on a film. My son's a filmmaker, he's making a film. It was a long time ago. And I said, I can't wait to see you tomorrow. And this young man looked at me and said, no one's ever said that to me.
Mm,
Right?
that's deep.
No one's
That's
ever
deep.
said that to me.
Wow.
That's big. That means a parent, a teacher. I realized then that we may be the only ones who are giving these kids voice. So that was the first thing. The second thing was that there were young people for whom their beauty has been completely scarred and overwhelmed and lost because they're seen as problem. So when people talk to me about the Center for Youth, you work with troubled teens, I'm like, yeah, no, we don't say that. They're at risk. No, we say they're at promise.
Wow, that's
You
good.
turn it around.
That's really good. At promise.
Turn it around.
That's
You
good.
turn it
That's
around,
really
right?
good.
So that's the most important thing. Our young people are at promise. That means that any day, one of them could turn a situation that's pretty dreadful into something pretty wonderful. That's what we do here. So as we grew and grew and grew and grew, and we grew and grew, now we're 8.8 million.
Yes.
And there's 275 of us. So
Yes. Under her stewardship,
under my watch.
Yes.
Right? We added Fashion Week. Why do we do Fashion Week? Fashion Week exists for one reason only: to raise money for homeless shelters.
That's
now,
right.
it's also had this amazing impact on our community because it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful, right?
Everyone wants to come
Everybody
get
wants to go
dressed up, and put their good clothes on, that smell good.
Glam,
Yes.
and to say, we can bring those two Rochesters together. We
Wow.
can be fancy pants, and we can wear high heels and look great and glitter and glam, but at the end of the day, we're going to make it possible to open more shelters, and that's what we're doing, and that's what we've been doing.
I know that you talked about the stories and having to hear those stories of young people who have just traumatic experiences, things that they're going through, things that they have been through.
Right.
What are other ways that people who are watching, they can get engaged with the youth?
Yeah. So I always talk about the things that are free. And that is when you see a young person, the most obvious is you're in Wegmans or wherever you shop, and there's a young cashier, and instead of giving them a stink face because they make a mistake or something, you can ask them, where do you go to school? Or tell me something about yourself. Conversation.
Listening, being present.
So we always talk about small talk, big difference. Small talk with kids.
That's great.
Small talk, big difference, right? You can make a big difference. That's one thing. Obviously, we always need volunteers.
Yeah.
We have 100 active volunteers just in our 2 crisis nurseries. That's pretty amazing.
Wow,
People want to help us.
Right.
We're looking now for more people, host homes, who may even want to take in a mom and a baby for up to 3 months. Not foster care.
Okay, so it's like
Not
okay.
foster care, but
Okay.
it's saying, I can do this. I have the asset. I have the time. My kids are grown, or I'm never married, or my partner and I would love to help out.
Yes.
How do we help each other? There's so many ways.
That's awesome. I know that you have the shelter that you're working on right now for the LGBT community.
We're adding a shelter on Arnett Boulevard, and why are we doing that? We're doing that because our LGBT young people are still being in 2018 are still being discriminated against, mistreated, trafficked, and we'll also use that shelter for our trafficked kids. We're one of the highest numbers of sex trafficking in the state.
Wow.
Our youngest victim was 11 years old.
Oh my God.
This is in our community. It's unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
So the Arnett House, a little small house, independent living, 5 to 6 beds, and we're going to keep people safe.
That's
and
awesome.
Arnett Boulevard, along that path, is actually a lovely neighborhood.
It is. It really is. I love
little
Arnett
neighborhood.
Cafe over there.
Yeah,
Arnett
it's
Library.
right there. The Arnett Cafe is right there.
Yes.
Teen Empowerment is right on the other corner.
Yes.
But we're also, I'd love you to come see it, because we're going to transform this house.
That's
Why?
awesome.
Because our kids deserve the best.
That's good.
Sometimes someone will come in our shelter. Why do they need, those beautiful quilts on their bed? Or why do they have a big screen TV? Because our kids deserve the best.
That's true. That's good.
Right. We're not going to give our kids some leftovers. We're not going to make them feel like they're less than.
What can we do to prevent children from ending up in the community at the Center for Youth? What is something that we can do?
Well, I think one of the things we try to do here is to give young people voice early on. So a lot of our programs are in elementary schools.
Wow.
A lot of our programs are dealing with little ones. Our crisis nursery youngest client was 3 days old.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So you're infusing positivity. You're infusing opportunities to speak out. You're infusing that early on. The whole community community can do that.
That's
You've got
right.
to give young people a voice. We don't believe that we know better than they do. Right?
Yes.
Do we know better
We
because
don't.
we're grown?
We
No,
don't. We only know
We
as
don't.
much as our life experience
Right,
has.
right. And guess what? We've messed some things up.
Exactly.
So our students, our young people, we try to give them a voice early on. We have a whole group of youth advocates as well, of course, and they tell us the truth. They do not hold back. I run a school for young men called the New Beginning School.
Nice.
There's 25 to 30 guys that show up. They're knuckleheads. We love them, but they're really something. They always complain about the food, so there's that. You know.
That's good. For someone watching, they're looking at your story and they're saying you are someone who is literally a role model for the community, a role model for those young people who are looking at you, not just in the position that you're in, but your
Yeah.
life story.
Right.
What can they do in their own life to just be inspiring, to be empowering to others? What's something they can do?
You know, I think that we all have young people in our lives. If they're not our own children, they're our neighbors. They're people you know from church. They're people that you may be, your friends may have children. I'm going to ask everybody to give those kids a chance, to take your time to get to know them, to talk to them
Yes.
about what matters to them, to make them feel special.
That's
It's
good.
not, you know what, this is what I tell people, it is free.
Yeah.
It costs you nothing.
Right.
You want every interaction you have with every single person you meet to be better. You're going to walk away from that person and they're going to say, wow, I
Right.
just met Elaine, or I just met Dante.
Yes.
I'm better because of it.
Yes.
What if we all do that?
Exactly.
What if we all do that?
And we all had that kind
What
of
if we all did
impact
that?
on the
What
world.
would happen? What would
That's
happen?
good.
What kind of, and you know, you talk about a tipping point. It is contagious.
It is very.
Good news is contagious.
Very contagious.
Bad news can be as well. We don't focus on that, right?
No.
You can starve the negative and feed the positive. That's what I think.
That's good. That's good.
Starve the negative. When
That's
somebody
good.
wants to say something, you know, I think we all are with people who aren't always positive. That's just the world.
Right.
But we should choose to spend more time with people who are affirming and positive and energetic and really care about the world. And our young people are there for us.
That's good.
And you may be the only person they talk to that day
That's
who
true.
makes them feel special.
That's good.
That voice is a prevention, is a form of prevention.
That's good. And
Yeah.
are you ready for rapid fire questions?
Yes! Go, ready.
Favorite book?
Favorite book? I'm reading, it's right there. It's called The Tattoos of the Heart.
Nice.
It's about, it's written by a priest in L.A. I'm going to give you a copy.
Okay, thank
Will
you.
you read it?
Oh my God, yes! I love it.
Okay, Tattoos of the Heart. I have it there because it's my favorite, one of my favorites. He was working with gangs in L.A. And he started an entrepreneurship with them, and it's a story after story after story of gang members, of can I say ass?
Yeah.
Hard-ass people who you would not expect, and they transform their lives.
Nice.
If they can do it, we can do it. So, Tattoos of the Heart.
Favorite stage play?
Stage play. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
I want to say that film Equus, where that horse was going, but I don't know. That's probably not it. I love Thurgood. I just saw Thurgood at Diva.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
I didn't see it.
Oh my God! How did you?
I know. I should have.
Okay, so Thurgood would be. I haven't seen Hamilton. I guess that's the best. But Thurgood
Hamilton's
was.
coming to Rochester, everyone.
We'll just see that. But Thurgood was about Thurgood Marshall. A one-man show. It was magnificent. I forced my son to come with me, and he said, "He's 35 years old. You can't force him to do much." He's single, by the way, girls. Very handsome.
Audacious Believer / eHarmony.
He would kill me. Hopefully he won't see this. But he's so wonderful. But he said, thank you for bringing me here. So Thurgood, the story of Thurgood Marshall, who was an icon in the law and in our world.
Nice.
Yeah.
What do you see when you look in the mirror?
I actually see. I don't see the wrinkles.
Yeah.
I know they're there, and I know I'm old. But I can't stand it. I
Your
just
experience. You don't get older. You get experience.
When I look in the mirror, I'm okay. I feel okay. I feel, like there's a lot to be done. But I feel pretty blessed.
Nice.
I feel pretty blessed.
What do you see though? Like, what do you see? What else do you see?
A smile.
Mm.
Yeah, I see a smile.
Yeah.
I see a person who doesn't have a lot of time to look in the mirror, by the way, because I'm in and out. I'm
Nice.
very low maintenance,
Nice.
right? Sometimes I see someone who's a little chubbier than they should be, but that's okay.
She thick, girl. She thick. Me too, that girl.
Yeah, we're all good about that. We're all Nobody wants to hear that. But I see a person who is pretty determined.
So who inspires you?
Oh gosh, obviously my parents, my mom, and I have a 3-year-old grandchild now. Her name is Gemma Rose, and she's a force at 3. And I think when I think about, I remember, I'm just going to be political for a second, when our most recent president was elected, I promised her, she didn't care because she was 2 or something, that I would have her back.
Wow.
And that we would make sure that whatever happened, it wouldn't impact the children. And it has impacted children, which is the problem, but we're going to keep at it.
Keep
but
working.
but I think that those closest to me are probably my greatest inspirations. I do love Walter Cooper. Do you know him? There's a school named after him.
Oh, yeah.
He's the first black chemist at Kodak, and he and his wife were forces in this community.
Nice.
So he's an inspiration to me as well.
That's awesome.
And then our kids. Our
That's
kids.
good.
Our kids. I
That's
mean,
good.
the kids here at the center.
That's good.
Yeah.
And to be audacious means to be...
Oh my God, bold, courageous, out of the box, nuts, crazy. Don't even try to stop us. Get out of our way.
Yes.
Move on. There's nothing for you to see here.
Yes,
Move
honey.
on. Either join us. So one of the things we've been saying a lot about Fashion Week, and I'm doing this with my hair, but it's okay.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I got
you
that
too.
hair.
Yeah,
It's
here
like
too.
you get in my
Yeah. Is that it's not how you move on that runway. It's how you start a movement. It's not how you stand. It's the stand you take. Right?
That's also good.
It's not how you
That's
work
tweetable.
it.
That's tweet.
It's how you work it out.
How you working it out?
Right?
I'm working it out and working
It's not how
it.
you walk, it's how you lean. But right now, we're talking a lot about starting a movement, and we're starting a movement to take care of our kids and to say whatever it takes. Jeffrey Canada, who started the Harlem Children's Zone, I had the chance to work with him on a governor's commission, and he wrote a book that said whatever it takes, and that's my motto. Whatever it takes. You tell
That's
me,
good.
what do you need? Whatever it takes.
That's good. How they can find you online, how they can support the Center for Youth.
Well, the Center for Youth, www.centerforyouth.net,
Yes.
.net, not .org, but .net.
Yes.
You could be my friend on Facebook.
Yeah,
I do
we
check
got
it.
Facebook
I
friends.
check it once in a while, not all the time, but I do check it. And obviously, I'm also City Councilwoman.
Yes,
So
yeah.
should we talk about that too?
Yeah,
I forgot to
go-
mention that.
I mean, go ahead,
you can
girl.
find me at City Hall, and I'm in my 11th year on City Council. That was another thing I said to Bob Duffy. I will serve 1 term, 4 years, and I am now 11 years later. So I cannot.
You don't
my
remember
word.
this, but it was like 10 years ago. I mean,
When did we meet?
I mean, it was like, no, I saw you in City Hall 10 years ago, and you had on like this dress that had like this pin, I don't know what it was, like black, when it had a white pin stripe all the way down the side. I was like, she knows how to dress, honey. And I was like, she was walking with a little thing.
Oh my God! In City Hall. What were you doing there?
I don't remember. I was a child. I don't know, about 10 years ago. When you get my age, you'll understand it.
Where was I 10 years? What was I doing? Where's that dress? I don't have it anymore.
It
But
was great. It was really nice. But until next time, remember that life is meant to be enjoyed and not just endured.